The following content contains sensitive material that may be disturbing or triggering to some listeners. Topics include discussions of psychological abuse, traumatic experiences, and other potentially distressing themes. Viewer discretion is advised. If you or someone you know is struggling, please seek support from a trusted friend, family member, or professional. Welcome to another gripping episode of The Sins of Scientology. My name is Sandy McKenna, and along with my co-host Abraham Ulrich, we unravel the haunting and tragic tale of Lisa McPherson, a woman whose life began in the seemingly serene suburbs of Dallas, but took a dark and unexpected turn. Lisa's story unfolds in what appears to be a typical middle-class household, but in truth her childhood was anything but typical. Tragic events cast long, ominous shadows over Lisa's early years, setting the stage for a life steeped in sorrow and searching. Despite her personal demons, Lisa embarked on a promising career, and then her path crossed with Scientology. What began as a curiosity soon morphed into a profound and all-consuming commitment. Marriage and relationships were marred with turmoil and despair, yet Lisa's dedication to Scientology only deepened, driven by her desperate belief in its promise of salvation. Her life became a relentless cycle of intense study and auditing as she sought to purge herself of unseen traumas and achieve spiritual clarity. Financial struggles and emotional isolation punctuated Lisa's life. Her letters from this period paint a picture of a woman on the edge, torn between hope and despair. Moments of professional success were overshadowed by personal losses and Scientology's suffocating grip. By 1995, Lisa's life was spiraling into darkness. Her final weeks were a blur of erratic behavior and desperate cries for help, shrouded in secrecy and darkness. On November 18, 1995, what appeared to be a minor accident became the catalyst for Lisa's final, haunting plea for help. This is where the unsettling mystery of Lisa McPherson's last 17 days begins. Join us as we uncover the dark and twisted tale of Lisa McPherson, a woman lost in the winding corridors of faith, searching for salvation, but finding only an abyss. Lisa's is a story that will send shivers down your spine, and a narrative of eerie obsession and ultimate tragedy.
Lisa McPherson's story began in the quiet suburbs of Dallas, where she was born into a middle-class family. Lisa McPherson was born on February 10, 1959, to parents Jim and Fanny McPherson. Her father Jim was an insurance salesman and her mother Fanny was a homemaker. Despite the seemingly typical suburban facade, Lisa's childhood was far from ordinary. Both her parents struggled with alcoholism. However, in the late 1970s, her mother Fanny found sobriety through Alcoholics Anonymous, bringing a glimmer of hope into their tumultuous household. Lisa was the younger of two siblings with an older brother, Steve, who was just 2 years her senior. In 1973, when he was 16, her brother was involved in criminal activities such as stealing lawnmowers, radios, and other items from local neighborhoods. He'd then bring these stolen items to an older acquaintance who would sell them. Sadly, that wasn't the worst of it, though. Gun in hand, Steve ended his life that year. This devastating event marked the beginning of many difficult periods in her life. Grappling with her grief, Lisa turned to drinking, smoking weed, and promiscuity, seeking solace in self-destructive behaviors. Despite the chaos in her personal life, Lisa loved music and theater. She was in drama in high school, and although she never pursued theater, she was always drawn to the art. In 1977, Lisa graduated with honors from Bryan Adams High School in Dallas, ranking 60th out of 743 students. Her academic success was a testament to her resilience and determination. After high school, Lisa began working as a customer service representative for Southwestern Bell, a phone company. She excelled in her role, earning the admiration of both her customers and colleagues. It was during this time that a co-worker introduced her to Scientology, planting the seed that would become a significant part of her life. At the age of 19, Lisa met Don Boss, a 35-year-old man whom she quickly became entangled with. Don was the uncle to her hairdresser Myra. He called every day, 3 times a day, until she finally agreed to go out with him. Their whirlwind romance led to an impulsive elopement after just 4 weeks of dating. Unfortunately, the relationship turned abusive and Lisa soon realized her mistake. Within months, the marriage ended, but Don remained a lingering presence in her life. Remarkably, in 1982, they remarried despite the unresolved issues of their past.
During this tumultuous period, Lisa read Dianetics, the foundational text of Scientology. This introduction marked the beginning of her deepening involvement in the controversial organization, setting the stage for the tragic events that would later unfold. Why Lisa became a Scientologist, in her own words. An on-purpose group is all I ever wanted to work with. With this, I can operate at my best capacity with little counterintention. A sane planet, a better future, a future period. I don't know why, I just knew something about Scientology could save me from the mess I was in. The Dallas Scientology mission was called the Center for Personal Enhancement. With its welcoming atmosphere and community of over 100 members, it was seen as a positive environment for personal growth. Lisa, known for her fun-loving and exuberant nature, was a regular at the mission. She loved country line dancing and was often described as the life of the party. However, as she began dedicating more and more time to the mission, her social activities dwindled. Lisa immersed herself in Scientology studies, foregoing parties and family gatherings. Lisa's journey into Scientology started like many others, with a personality test and some introductory lectures. Given her history of drug use, she was required to undergo the Purification Rundown, a detoxification program that, according to Scientology, helps rid the body of harmful substances and paves the way for spiritual well-being. The regimen involved hours of daily exercise, time in a sauna, and a strict nutritional plan, including megadoses of vitamins and minerals. One of the required supplements, niacin, can be hazardous in such high doses. Despite the program's rigorous and sometimes dangerous nature, the ultimate goal was to achieve spiritual gains. After completing the Purification Rundown, or PURIF, Lisa advanced to the next stage, life repair. Scientology describes life repair as a form of counseling designed to improve a person's outlook on life by resolving personal problems and overcoming barriers. The program is tailored to each individual's specific issues, aiming to free them from their past pain, improve relationships, and reduce anxiety and stress. Central to this process is the e-meter, a device certified Scientology counselors or auditors use to measure changes in an individual's thoughts and help uncover the root causes of their problems. The year was 1982, and in no uncertain terms, the church let Lisa know that her then-husband, Don Boss, was a suppressive person, or an SP. According to Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard, a suppressive person is a person who seeks to suppress or squash any betterment activities of a group. This is the person whose behavior is calculated to be disastrous. He went on to say that well-known examples of such antisocial personality types are Napoleon and Hitler. The term is also used to refer to individuals who doubt the organization and try to get others to side with them against Scientology. This label not only estranged Lisa from Don, but also solidified her commitment to Scientology.
During this tumultuous period, Lisa kept extensive Scientology journals known as overt withhold write-ups. These deeply personal accounts included details of her sexual encounters and an affidavit attesting to her husband's criminal activities. Her marriage to Don ended about a year later. Reflecting on her decision to join Scientology, Lisa once said she did it to, quote, get away from the criminal psychotic she was connected to, end quote. This was a transformative time for Lisa. She adopted Scientology's unique terminology, referring to people as terminals in physical items as MEST, M-E-S-T, standing for matter, energy, space, and time. Her friends found this change odd, and as a result, many drifted away, leaving Lisa surrounded primarily by her fellow Scientologists. Lisa McPherson's deepening involvement with Scientology marked a significant turning point in her life, one that isolated her from her past and bound her even closer to the controversial organization. Lisa was no stranger to heartache. In 1983, her father J.T. McPherson tragically took his own life at the age of 64. His health had been declining for more than a decade, suffering a stroke that forced him into retirement. He sought help from various doctors and underwent at least 3 surgeries, but nothing provided relief. Eventually, doctors told him his issues were not physical and suggested to see a psychiatrist. He became bedridden for about 6 months before untimely taking his own life 1 decade after his son. These profound losses undoubtedly shaped her outlook on life and emotional state, setting the stage for her later struggles. Around this challenging time, Lisa found solace in the Church of Scientology. In 1983, she began working part-time at the Dallas Mission, conducting personality tests and volunteering at church phone drives and fundraisers. The church offered a sense of community and purpose, providing Lisa with an escape from her personal grief. Lisa's involvement with the Dallas Mission of Scientology became a significant part of her life. She was committed to the church's activities and helped whenever possible. This involvement gave her a sense of belonging and a way to channel her energy positively amidst her turmoil. It was also around this time that Lisa met David and Bernetta Slaughter. Lisa didn't know it then, but Bernetta would become a key figure in her future. The Slaughter owned a successful mortgage brokerage company during the real estate boom in Dallas. As major donors to Scientology, they were also rising stars under Scientology's spiritual bridge.
In 1984, in a Scientology ceremony in Dallas, Texas, 24-year-old Lisa married Eugene Skanetsky, a fellow Scientologist she met at the mission. Church records show that in 1985, Lisa worked for a Dallas mortgage company owned by David and Bernetta Slaughter. Lisa was making a really good salary, which was able to furnish the newlyweds' new condo and pay for a Porsche. Her husband Gene worked full-time at the Scientology mission, so I imagine he wasn't paying for a whole lot of the marital assets. While Lisa continued to earn a good living, it wasn't long before they were in serious debt. They owed tens of thousands of dollars to a credit union, 2 banks, and 3 credit card companies. During the day, she worked for dentist Steve Craig till around 4 or 5 p.m. From there, she went straight to the Dallas org and was on post until midnight or after. Then she went home and went to bed. October 1988. Gene was unaffected by the couple's mounting financial woes and took off for L.A. to sign a billion-year contract and dedicate his life to the Sea Org, Scientology's most dedicated. Lisa followed, hoping to build a new life together within the Scientology community, so she left Dallas. Joining the Sea Org was not what Lisa had hoped it to be. The pressures and demands of life in Los Angeles and the Sea Org took their toll on Lisa and the marriage. Lisa left the Sea Org, L.A., and Gene. Only her debt followed. Not only did Lisa owe banks and credit card companies, but she also owed Scientology. This meant that until Lisa could make some headway settling her freeloader debt to Scientology, she would not be able to receive Scientology services. This was yet another crushing blow that added pressure to the already overwrought Lisa. When someone joins Scientology as staff by signing a contract for 2.5, 5, or even 1 billion years, they are technically entitled to free services such as auditing and training. However, if the individual becomes dissatisfied and decides to leave, they are issued a freeloader's bill, which charges them for all the services they received while on staff at full rates. This can add up, and in the case of Lisa McPherson, it most certainly did. In 1989 and 90, amid her divorce from Gene, her second husband, and facing bankruptcy with $45,000 in mounting debt, Lisa received no auditing services from the Church of Scientology. Later that same year, Lisa underwent a Scientology security check, or SEC check, a form of interrogation following her departure from church staff. The following year, in 1991, just 1 year after emerging from bankruptcy court, Lisa donated $11,828 to the church's Celebrity Center in Dallas. Financial records from 1992 reveal that from March to December, Lisa wrote checks totaling $11,925 to the Dallas church and associated entities, which amounted to 29% of her income for that period. A separate document from the Dallas church indicates that her total donations for the year amounted to $21,781. One of the questions in her life history for Scientology, Lisa was asked about her relationship with her mother. She wrote the following, referring to her mother Fanny. In the past, she has opposed Scientology as well as me being a staff member. Her comments have been limited to thinking I work too hard, and she has said she thinks the church gets all my money. She asked me on 3 or 4 occasions, when do I plan to get out of Scientology? My answer being probably never led her to threaten to write me out of her will. The last time I queried this, she had not done so. She has never liked the idea of me being in Dianetics or Scientology. She has always believed it to be a brainwashing cult. She saw a 60 Minutes program once and said it had to be true, otherwise they couldn't have put it on TV. This particular program was in theta towards the church. The most frequent question I ask her is what she has observed in me since being connected to the church. Her response is always very positive with regard to my overall happiness. My marriage, my disconnection from the druggy friends I once associated with whom she strongly opposed, my previous promiscuity, my upstat mess. She has evidenced an apartment full of furniture, a new Porsche, a diamond necklace, new clothes, etc. All of these were acquired since my marriage to Jean in the church. I have done OW write-ups and had changes in our communication line, seeing how I have in the past created antagonism with her. I have had a PTS rundown and she was addressed. I have applied good roads and fair weather with her continually since then. She does not openly say things to me. However, in a calm cycle with one of my old friends from high school, he told me that my mother told him I was involved in a goddamn cult. This was about a month ago. I explained Scientology to him, and he said he knew that I wouldn't be involved in a cult. I later questioned my mother about it, and she denied ever saying anything. My attitude towards my mother is that she's an SP. For all practical purposes, I've spiritually disconnected from her. The only reason I keep any calm line with her whatsoever is to avoid creating antagonism with Scientology.
By 1990, the divorce and bankruptcy cases had been settled and Lisa had left the phone company. That summer, she went to work for AMC Publishings, a company owned by Jeffrey Schaefer along with David and Bennetta Slaughter. AMC created advertising packets and sold leads to insurance companies. As a Scientology-owned company, AMC followed the management and administrative principles of L. Ron Hubbard. The World Institute of Scientology Enterprises, or WISE, is an organization within the Church of Scientology that licenses the administrative tech to secular Scientology-owned companies, for a fee, of course. This allows them to use an org board to delegate responsibilities, manage employees by analyzing their productivity, and assign them various conditions of existence to improve their output. Scientology believes there are 3 conditions of existence. These 3 conditions comprise or make up one's life. They are be, do, and have. Be, beingness, that could be someone's name, someone's profession or character. Do, doing, meaning an action, a function, accomplishments, the attainment of goals, fulfilling of purpose, or any change of position in space. Have, havingness, meaning owning, possessing, being capable of commanding, positioning, taking charge of an object, energies, or spaces. Lisa flourished in this environment. She was a natural at sales. In just a year, Lisa was flushed again. Her debt repaid to the church, and she was again able to receive auditing and other church services. Here's something to take note of. Not only was Bennetta Slaughter Lisa's boss, but she was also considered a friend and was her FSM. It's not unusual and acceptable for Scientology business owners and their staff members to become field staff members or FSMs. FSMs are salespersons trained to recruit people for Scientology services. Depending on the type of service, the FSMs earn 10 to 15% commission on everyone they select or sign up for a Scientology service or course. This could be mighty lucrative for someone yielding influence. From the outside looking in, it's a bit unethical. Business and church intersect, muddy in the waters. AMC Publishing closed its Dallas location in December 1983 and relocated to Scientology's Mecca, Clearwater, Florida. With around 20 employees, predominantly Scientologists, Lisa McPherson was one of them.
1994 starts on a high note in Clearwater, Florida. The move seems promising as wealthy Scientology business owners, David and Bennetta Slaughter, and their relocated staff from Dallas, including Lisa, are welcomed into town with plenty of fanfare. But to truly understand how Lisa is adjusting, what she's thinking and how she's feeling, is expressed in the following letters she wrote to friends and fellow Scientologists. January 4th, 1994. My dearest Robin, I received your lovely letter today. Thank you for taking the time to impart your deepest thoughts on me. There simply are no words to express my everlasting, well, you know, it's the thing you say right after you've cleaned out someone's complete grocery supply. Oh yeah, appreciation, that's it. You probably already had figured that out, didn't you? Well, I'm here. Most of the boxes have been emptied and unpacked, and it's beginning to feel more like home. I think you have the best apartment of anyone. It's definitely nicer than the ones I've lived in before. I just need to get some living room and dining room furniture. It's different here for sure. I have to adjust to these Yankee customs of driving like maniacs, and everything else is slow. I mean, they're going to be going backwards if they go any slower. I'm sure I'll adjust. Poor David wasn't prepared for my ability to drive. We got here in a day and a half. I'd do it again tomorrow if I had to. Brenda and I checked out the local country bar. It was a genuine bust, and we went to a movie instead. I'll keep my Dallas dance halls, thank you. Not much else to report here. I just wanted to let you know I'm well and really glad you wrote. Keep in touch. Love, Lisa. January 13th, 1994. Dear Robin, I got your second letter and I'm a little late answering. Sorry, my folders did arrive. Thanks so much for making sure they got shipped. I did see Cindy at the Fort Harrison last night. She was headed somewhere and didn't have time to stop and chat. I'm not really hanging out at Flag. I routed in last night. Actually, half of us did. The base honored us with an incredible steak dinner at the Hibiscus. All of us attended. It was incredible. I've been working late, 8 or so almost every night. I haven't been able to do much else. As for my bridge progress, I got my TE, and guess what my first action is? L11. I was shocked because I never even hinted that I'd be interested in my Ls. My main interest has to be just to move up the bridge. After the Enlightenment, I was more excited than I had ever been to recall about my bridge cycle. I mean, I was thrilled. Did you get that, Robin? Hey, are you paying attention? I was like, it was first Christmas kind of feeling. I can't believe it. I am fucking going to do an L. I'll probably be starting it when you get this letter. My new place is incredible. Of everyone's apartments, mine is the finest. Plus, I'm putting a new living room and dining room furniture so I can make it extra nice. The office is perfect, except I have to empty my own trash. It's great, really. The temp has been fairly mild so far. I'm hoping to try out that fish cleaning IC post you were telling me about. Jeff has collected my initial fees already, and as long as I don't blab to anyone, I may get a cut-rate membership and startup package at a steal. Well, it's 10 p.m. and I have to be sessionable tomorrow, so I better skedaddle for now. Tell everyone hello for me. Hugs, Lisa. P.S. Would you tell Roy thanks for the data and my donos, please? February 25th, 1994. Dear Force, thanks for your letter and staying in touch. I have received the facts, thanks. I did get the tapes, thanks again. I'm on solo and I'm winning like a mother, Force. Not many know, but I've never read Dianetics all the way through before. I am finally getting the scoop on what it is I'm striving for by becoming clear. Pretty scary, huh? I'm on course Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 10 p.m., and just loving life instead of death. I'm changing the idiom because I think it's more theta intention, don't you? Anyway, since I'm actually understanding what Dianetics is, I'm finding my willingness to descend has gone way up. Went dancing last night and told 2 guys I danced with that they had to get the book and read it. Bet they do too. That's about all for me. I'll tell everyone hello for you. You tell everyone hello for me. Love you, Lisa. March 6, 1994. Dear Robin, I finally found a few minutes to write you. Sorry for the comm lag. I need to catch you up on the latest and greatest, but I don't know where to start. I'll just jump right in and tell you first, his name is Kurt Payne, also known as Jack, and depending on what day it is, Hakeem. I told him I was accustomed to being with a lot of men, and he was very accommodating. I originally met him at the L's, HGC, where we began sparring. I liked him. He didn't seem intimidated by my magnificent presence and breathtaking, voluptuous breasts. In fact, I don't even think he noticed. It's quite a funny story, actually, and if you have time, I will impart the beginning chapters of our love adventure to you. May 8th, 1994. Dear Robin, got your letter and comments as the devil's advocate. That's very good of you as a friend to bring up the possibility of my living arrangement. It has been re-stimulating, I must admit. So I met someone else. Kurt Payne is the guy I met on L11, and we're just getting to know each other. I'd like to visit with you by phone about it soon. Hell, by the time we talk, I'm liable to have found someone else. You know me. Since I've been talking to Kurt, I'm not re-stimulated by my roommate anymore. I actually started listening to my tapes. I'm on the first one and I like it. You asked about any substitute for country and Western dancing. I have set different priorities and it isn't that much of an issue. Hey, when we talk again, ask me to tell you about all the wins I've had over buying a very expensive computer. I have not done any boating yet. Take care. Love ya, Lisa. June 19th, 1994. From Flag FSO regarding General Amnesty. CC Ethics Files. Dear Lisa, I have received your request to accept the General Amnesty issued on October 7, 1993. With this amnesty, you are forgiven any antisocial or anti-Scientology deeds prior to midnight, October 7, 1993, in accordance with HCO PL March 6, 65 amnesty policy. This amnesty was issued to help you look into the future and get on with the job as a unified team with the rest of Scientologists in our area. This is what is expected of you. July 10, 1994. Dear Dean, hello again. I was happy to receive your letter. Thanks for keeping the calm line in. You asked about my progress on the L's. I have only done one, and currently I am doing setups for the next one. I have a handsome hunk I chased and caught successfully. His name is Kurt, and I have every intention of marrying him one day soon. We are very happy together, and I'll keep you posted on our progress. I heard from Bill and Robin recently. Sounds like everyone is really applying the definition of team and doing a good job of holding down the fort. When do you leave for L.A.? Who is replacing you? Continue applying the tech throughout your life, and you'll surely do well at anything. What course of auditing are you on now? Best, Lisa. November 15, 1994. Dear Robin, I was more than delighted to be in receipt of your most recent letter. But you certainly were chatty. I'm not on my solo course anymore. Decided I don't really need to do it after all. Heck, I've been in Scientology for 10 years and I certainly know what's going on without having to do a course. I've got me a couple of meters and an electrical outlet. I'm nearly there. Oh, Robin, I've been doing my expanded grades and I'm completely and totally blown out over it. I've reached the EP of grade 1. I was so thrilled I couldn't even believe it. I used to go up to the grade chart in the HGC and read the EP of grade 1 and think, yeah, it must be that way for some people, but that just isn't real for me. Of course, I've had many steadily dramatizing this unflat grade for 7 or so years. I have friends who will attest, so I have no idea what that's all about. But I got it, man. My last comm to you, I may have mentioned that my boyfriend and I broke up, and what a sorry son of a bitch he was. Well, we are back together, and I could write an entire book on it, but not now. Write me a letter and tell me what's going on. Love you, Lisa. November 19th, 1994. Dear Michelle, hey girl, thanks for the letter. Things are going well here. I'm really busy with work and auditing. I'm active on the OTC, and I just joined the Hubbard International Women's Association. We had our first meeting last Sunday. I'm about to begin grade 2 EXP, and I'm excited about that. What's happening with the Dallas OTC? I have 0 comm lines active in Dallas to send to the org right now. How's Division 6? Best, Lisa. November 24th, 1994. Dear Aaron, well, I got your letter today, and I'm so happy to hear from you. I had just gotten letters from Robin and Bill, and I thought about you. I should have written you before now, but I'm sorry that I haven't. You asked me a million questions in your letter, and since I don't have it, I'll do my best from the hip. I just completed my grade 1 EXP. Oh my God, what a complete relief. I also did grade 0 EXP, and it was incredible. I've done my setup program, and I'm ready to go on to L12. I should start that next week. That is really exciting about your wife coming home in December. Wow, I bet you can hardly wait. I found myself a true love, a white guy. We have been dating since May, and so far as I can tell, he's a keeper. We're both working at really creating our 2D, and it has not been a cakewalk. We have been through quite a few interesting experiences, but it has steadily improved as we work our scenes out. You asked about Flag. I don't know how I can truly convey what it's like living here, but here are a few things you should know. People move up the bridge here. The public strongly enforces the agreement that being on course or the HGC is what's acceptable. There are some, I'm sure, who don't come around, who are bogged for whatever reason, but the active field is active. You know, after having been here for a short time, that there isn't anything Flag cannot handle. The environment of Scientology schools and businesses makes it very safe and sane. It's like utopia. I live in a townhouse near the water in a very upstate community. It's the nicest place I've ever lived. Well, that's about it from here. Thanks for writing, and let's do keep in touch. Love you, Lisa.
1995 was a rough year for Lisa. Her relationship with Kurt Payne ended that spring. The breakup, combined with lagging sales and decreased commission, sent Lisa into a downward spiral, putting her in a very dark place. She was doing auditing at Flag and ethics handling at work. The purpose of Scientology ethics is to eliminate people's interest in things other than Scientology. She started to complain that she was unable to find herself and expressed she no longer wanted auditing, a crime by Scientology standards. As a result, she was assigned to an audit and repair program designed to repair past auditing mistakes. This, instead of helping Lisa, led her deeper into helplessness and despair. Mentally and physically exhausted, Lisa took a leave of absence from AMC at the end of June 1995. She checked into the Fort Harrison Hotel in Clearwater and began an introspective rundown. The introspective rundown is a controversial Scientology procedure that is intended to handle a psychotic break or complete mental breakdown. The first step is to isolate the person with all attendants in complete and utter silence. Auditing sessions were given frequently, otherwise Lisa was not to be spoken to. The theory here is that if you can find what caused the person to become psychotic, then you can handle the cause and break the psychotic episode. At the hotel, Lisa was assigned a roommate who saw it that she ate well and rested in order to be sessionable. In other words, that nothing would get in the way of Lisa's auditing. During this time, Lisa would roller coaster from upbeat to dark and moody. Here's a letter from September 2nd, 1995 that Lisa sent her friend Robin. Dear Robin, I'm alive. Holy smokes, I didn't think I would make it. Ask Dan Levin. He'll tell you how pitiful I looked. Looks like I'm out of the woods now. Thank you for being there for me. Although I didn't write much, I thought about you many, many times, and the stability of our comm line definitely helped see me through. I'm still in the Hubbard Guidance Center, HGC, and get in sessions daily. You'll never believe the level of care and service I received at Flag. I am ready to go on tour and tell the world how anything can be handled. Although the last several months are still sort of blank for me, I can tell you that the days ahead will be much brighter, and I will keep you posted on my progress. The Deputy Senior CS is waiting for me. Can you believe it? I barely can. These guys are something else. Do you know who should come to Flag? I'll help them get here. I got your card. I love it. Thank you for being my friend. I love you. Lisa. In September 1995, during a ceremony at the Fort Harrison Hotel, Lisa McPherson was publicly declared clear, a state in which a Scientologist is believed to be free from inhibitions caused by painful subconscious images. It was a grueling and expensive journey to get here. The last 5 years of her life, Lisa spent more than $175,000 on Scientology counseling. Marty Rathbun served as a senior executive of the Church of Scientology, holding a position of Inspector General at the Religious Technology Center, RTC. His responsibilities included overseeing the internal maintenance and consistency of Scientology practices and procedures across its organization. He ensured strict adherence to all church policies as stated by Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard. In this interview with the St. Petersburg Times, Rathbun discusses Lisa McPherson's attainment of the state of clear. Let's listen to this audio clip.
When all this, where it's a completely quiet area, everybody knows that has been a Scientology for very long. That whole huge floor, it's all connected by a common hallway, is a silent zone because people are having auditing sessions in each one of them. I was walking through that one day and a door kicked open and I heard this loud voice hollering in glee in the hallway. And I thought that was really odd. And I went and inquired about what was going on. And I went up to one of the class 12s and I said, what's happening here? He said, oh, that's Lisa McPherson. She just attested to clear. So I just, even though I was told I wasn't supposed to, say anything to Angie, I went down to talk to Angie. I said, you've got somebody up in the Hubbard Guidance Center who just attested to clear, who looks to me to be on the verge of psychosis. And she quickly reminded me that I'm not supposed to be having any say about anything and, keep your mouth shut. She said, that's Lisa McPherson. She says, David Miscavige is CSing and programming her case, and I'm reporting on it weekly. Like, in other words, buzz off. To which I just went about my business and didn't think anything about it.
The following letter was written to Debbie Cook, captain of the Flag Service Organization, basically the CEO of Scientology's spiritual mecca in Clearwater, Florida. October 21st, 1995. Dear Mr. Cook, this letter is late. The truth of the matter is I have a stack of thank you letters that have been growing on my desk to people, your staff, who I've wanted to acknowledge for the help over the past year during my journey through the black hole. I'm sure you have seen many people struggle as they move up the bridge. What I have experienced was the worst struggle I have ever encountered in this lifetime, and I grew up in a pretty rambunctious neighborhood. Thank goodness I was not alone in this struggle at Flag. I was surrounded by your incredible staff. There are not enough adequate modifiers to describe the love, care, competence, and encouragement I received while I was there. There were some who were closer to me than others, providing me with constant service and relentless care. I tried to name them in order to send thank you notes, but I feared I would unintentionally leave someone out and did not want to take the chance. There were people who were propping me up all over the base, day after day, whom I never personally had spoken to, but I would see them and feel their care and attention for me. It is because of this group that exists at Flag and how very close you work together as a team that helped me through. This letter is extended to each and every staff member. Thank you all for helping to save my life. I want you all to know that I am in power on personal wins. Every day, my life is richer and more enhanced and so much more fun, I can hardly contain myself. I know one thing from all this that will protect me and keep me from the black hole again. If we only do just exactly what LRH has written and nothing else, it will all come out all right. Being a professional Scientologist carries a huge responsibility, as all staff posts do. I intend to do all I can to help clear this planet. Thank you for contributing to me and for pushing me through to a done. I will do this with others now, I promise you. I love each and every one of you very, very much. Love, Lisa McPherson.
6 weeks later, late in the afternoon on November 18, 1995, 36-year-old Scientologist Lisa McPherson was involved in a seemingly minor car accident. Though she was not injured, inexplicably, she stripped off her clothes and began walking down the street naked. Paramedics rushed her back into the ambulance and asked why she had taken off her clothes. With desperation in her eyes, she pleads to paramedics, "I need help. I need to talk to someone."
Thank you for joining us for this eye-opening episode of Sins of Scientology. The tragic story of Lisa McPherson is a stark reminder of the complexities and potential dangers that can arise within controversial organizations. Her life, filled with hope, despair, and an unwavering quest for spiritual clarity, resonates deeply with all who hear it.
As we continue to explore Lisa's journey, we hope to shed light on the profound impact that her experiences have had, not only on those who knew her, but also on the wider public who seek understanding and justice. In our next episode, we'll delve deeper into the circumstances leading up to Lisa's horrifying final days, uncovering more about the practices and pressures that ultimately led to her demise. If you like our content, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health or similar issues, don't forget that help is always available. Stay tuned for the next part of Lisa McPherson's story. Together, we can continue to seek the truth and honor the memory of those who have been affected by Scientology's darker side. Until next time, I am Abraham Ulrich.
And I'm Sandy McKenna.
Thank you for listening to Sins of Scientology. Until next time, keep questioning, keep seeking, and may your journey be as rich and enlightening as the stories you encounter.
The following content contains sensitive material that may be disturbing or triggering to some listeners. Topics include discussions of psychological abuse, traumatic experiences, and other potentially distressing themes. Viewer discretion is advised. If you or someone you know is struggling, please seek support from a trusted friend, family member, or professional. Welcome to another episode of Sins of Scientology, where we delve into the shadowy corners of one of the world's most controversial organizations. I'm your host, Sandy McKenna, joined by my co-host, Abraham Ulrich. Today, we continue to dive deep into the tragic story of Lisa McPherson. In Part 1, we explored Lisa's background and her journey within Scientology. In Part 2, we focus on the critical events of November 18, 1995, the day of her car accident and the ensuing chaos that would mark the beginning of her harrowing final days. We'll hear the detailed recollections from first responders, medical staff, and Scientologists who were present, and we'll piece together the bewildering circumstances and responses that followed Lisa's public breakdown. As they prepared to leave, the ambulance driver glanced back at Lisa's car. "Bonnie, she's taking her clothes off," he said. Lisa walked down the street completely naked, passing the ambulance. The paramedic quickly jumped out, guided Lisa to the back of the ambulance, and gave her a blanket. When the paramedic asked what she was doing, Lisa replied, "I wanted people to think I was crazy because I need help. I just wanted someone to talk to." Lisa was taken to the ER at Morton Plant Hospital in Clearwater, Florida. Join us as we unravel the complexities of this pivotal day in Lisa McPherson's life. Following summaries are derived from sworn statements recounting the recollections of those individuals who were present with Lisa at Morton Plant Hospital on November 18, 1995. These statements detail their roles, concerns, and actions taken upon learning of Lisa's accident and subsequent hospital visit. The individuals involved include church officials and medical personnel, providing these accounts under oath to explain their presence and involvement in the situation surrounding Lisa McPherson's ER visit and release.
The accident, November 18, 1995. Police report, Officer J. Farro. I was dispatched to an accident at South Fort Harrison Avenue and Bellevue Boulevard on November 18, 1995 at approximately 1740 hours. Investigation. Upon arrival, I parked my cruiser on the west grass shoulder of Fort Harrison Avenue, north of Bellevue. Fire department vehicles were occupying the southbound curb lane. The accident involved a motorcycle driven by a woman and a Ford Escort driven by an elderly man. Traffic was heavy in the area as all southbound traffic was funneling into the one still open center lane. This accident did not call for a police report, so I assisted in filling out a blue form driver's exchange. I then heard the screeching of a vehicle braking, followed by an impact. When I looked at the direction of the noise, I observed what appeared to be a second accident. A Jeep Cherokee had rear-ended a boat on a trailer. I requested a second unit to respond, and Officer M. Stonelake was dispatched. Fire department personnel checked for injuries and advised that none were present. If possible, I requested they advise the two drivers to move off the road to keep traffic flowing.
Officer Stonelake, I investigated a travel accident the victim was involved in. Investigation. At the time of the accident investigation, the victim walked away from the scene and removed all of her clothing. The paramedic from Sunstar stopped her after she removed all of her clothing. They brought her to an ambulance and provided her with a blanket. I spoke with the victim about her behavior. She indicated that she was having a hard time at the church, meaning the Church of Scientology. because she was not concentrating. She would not go into any further detail about that. I also noticed she appeared to be in a daze as I spoke to her. I had to ask her the same question several times to get a response. The victim attributed the accident to having a lot on her mind. The victim agreed to go with Sunstar to Morton Plant Hospital to speak to a counselor. I had no further contact with the victim.
Paramedic for Sunstar Ambulance, Bonnie Portolano's recollection of the events on November 18, 1995. Bonnie Portolano and her partner responded to a motor vehicle accident at the intersection of Bellevue and Fort Harrison. While assisting the Clearwater Fire Department with patients' refusal from the first accident, another minor accident occurred at the same intersection. The fire department also requested that Bonnie and her partner handle this refusal for this second incident. During the interactions, Bonnie noticed one of the individuals involved was new to the area and struggling to recall her address. The woman, Lisa, mentioned that mailing anything to a Texas address would eventually reach her. Although the address is not crucial for refusal, Bonnie found it odd but proceeded with the necessary paperwork. As Bonnie and her partner returned to their ambulance, her partner remarked on Lisa's peculiar behavior, referring to it as their crazy call of the day. However, things took a dramatic turn when Bonnie's partner spotted Lisa undressing in the side view mirror. Disbelieving at first, Bonnie quickly realized the situation when Lisa walked past her ambulance completely naked. Acting swiftly, Bonnie exited the ambulance to guide Lisa away from traffic. Lisa, complying, explained that she took her clothes off because she was an OT and wanted people to think she was crazy so they would help her. Bonnie, unfamiliar with the term OT, focused on ensuring Lisa's safety in getting her into the ambulance. Inside the ambulance, Lisa expressed feelings of being a bad person due to having bad thoughts and actions in her mind. Bonnie covered Lisa with a sheet and continued to ask her about her well-being. Lisa mentioned a significant concern about taking her eyes off the object, a statement Bonnie didn't fully understand at the time. The police officers who had gathered Lisa's clothing waited outside the ambulance to see if Lisa needed to be transported under the Baker Act. Lisa eventually agreed to go voluntarily, and Bonnie assured the police that no Baker Act was necessary. Lisa's request for her car to be towed to a specific address on Osceola hinted at her connection with Scientology. Throughout their conversation, Lisa displays signs of mental confusion, struggling with simple questions and often needing to be prompted to open her eyes to answer them. Despite this, she revealed that she worked for a publishing company on Lakeview and that she liked her job. Lisa's mental state seemed to fluctuate, showing apparent distress and fatigue. Bonnie and her partner transported Lisa to Morton Plant Hospital, where they debriefed the nurse on Lisa's condition and her desire for help. Bonnie felt deeply concerned for Lisa, sensing something special about her and hoping she would receive the necessary care. Bonnie recalls that after the initial assessment, a group of Scientologists had arrived at the emergency room and taken Lisa away despite her apparent need for further evaluation. Bonnie expressed frustration over the situation, comparing it to returning a battered wife to the abusive husband. She believed that Lisa's emotional turmoil and the influence of the Church of Scientology played a significant role in her distress. Lisa's constant reference to taking her eyes off the object and her self-perceived wrongdoings highlighted her internal struggle, something Bonnie wished she could have addressed more effectively if she had better knowledge of Scientology at the time. Ultimately, Bonnie's account paints a picture of a distraught woman caught between her need for help and the pressures of her religious affiliations. Despite Bonnie's best efforts to provide care, the constraints of the situation and Lisa's subsequent return to Scientologists left her feeling helpless and deeply saddened by the outcome.
The Recollection of Kim Brennan. Kim Brennan, a paramedic with 3.5 years of experience at Morton Plant Hospital and a background as a firefighter-paramedic at the Newport Richey Fire Department, detailed her experience with a patient brought in by EMS on November 18, 1995. Morton Plant was her first job in an emergency room, as she was also furthering her education to become a registered nurse. On the night of November 18, 1995, EMS personnel brought in a young woman involved in a minor motor vehicle accident. The patient, later identified as Lisa McPherson, had received treatment at the scene. Shortly after, she was found walking down the street naked, stating that she did not need her body at that time and wanted to talk to someone. EMS then transported her to the Morton Plant Emergency Department. Upon arrival, Lisa was placed in a bed, and Kim began to ask her several questions. Kim noted that Lisa kept her eyes closed and spoke very monotone. She would only open her eyes on command. Despite this, Lisa knew where she was, the day, and the year. Lisa stated that she had walked naked to make people think she was crazy and avoid being arrested. Kim completed the standard triage form asking about Lisa's mental status and medical history, all of which Lisa claimed were negative. Dr. Lovett, the emergency room physician on duty, examined Lisa and suggested a psychiatric evaluation due to her inappropriate behavior. Around 10 minutes after the EMS brought Lisa in, a member of the Church of Scientology arrived, claiming that a psychiatric consult was against the religion. Despite this, Dr. Lovett insisted on the evaluation. EMS personnel informed Kim that Lisa was a Scientologist. 2 more individuals arrived at Lisa's bedside, one identifying as a member of the congregation. They were very upset about the psychiatric evaluation, reiterating that it was against their practices. Dr. Lovett explained the necessity of evaluating Lisa's mental status to them. Joe, a registered nurse from the psychiatric department, conducted the evaluation. Despite the presence of Scientologists, Joe determined that Lisa was not a threat to herself or others, denying any suicidal or homicidal thoughts. Lisa expressed a desire to go home with her friends from the congregation. Dr. Lovett, after consulting with another physician, concluded that Lisa did not meet the criteria for the Baker Act. The Scientologists assured them that they would watch over her and handle any problems. Kim prepared an AMA against medical advice form for Lisa to sign as they felt she needed further evaluation. Lisa signed the form without issue, and Kim had the 2 Scientologists sign as witnesses, given their commitment to her care. The Scientologists were adamant and upset about the evaluation, making their opposition clear. Kim noted they remained beside Lisa, leaning on a shelf near the bed. Lisa, meanwhile, provided very little information voluntarily, speaking only when directly questioned and keeping her eyes closed most of the time. Kim observed that Lisa felt somewhat comfortable with the first Scientologist who arrived, whom she identified as a friend. However, after the arrival of the other 2 individuals, the bedside became silent, and Lisa did not engage in further conversation. Lisa remained in the ER for about 2 hours. The first Scientologist arrived approximately 10 minutes after Lisa, with the others following shortly thereafter. The woman in the blue shirt and the tall man in the dark clothing assured Kim and Dr. Lovett that they would take care of Lisa and watch over her. Eventually, somebody brought clothing for Lisa, though Kim could not confirm if it was her original clothing or new clothes. Kim saw Lisa walk out of the emergency room with the 3 Scientologists through the double doors towards the exit. This encounter left Kim reflecting on the unusual and concerning circumstances, particularly the strong opposition from the Scientologists regarding the psychiatric evaluation. Kim had never experienced such controversy and deeply felt Lisa needed to receive proper care.
Joe Price's recollection of the events on November 18, 1995. Joseph Price worked as a clinical nurse specialist and liaison at Morton Plant Hospital. He had been part of the hospital's team since 1995, bringing with him 18 years of experience as a nurse, most of which he spent in psychiatry. His responsibilities included performing psych consults and psychiatric assessments to determine whether individuals met Baker Act criteria. On the night of November 18th, around 10 p.m., Joe Price vividly remembered being called to the emergency room. Upon arrival, Dr. Lovett, the doctor on duty, informed him that a young lady needed to be assessed. This patient, Lisa, was accompanied by members of the Church of Scientology, which was unusual. Dr. Lovett advised that if Joe wanted these individuals to leave, he should ask them, and security would be called if necessary. When Joe went to the cubicle, he found Lisa lying in bed with at least 3 church members present. One man dressed in a very nice suit identified himself as a lawyer. Initially, he resisted Joe's attempt to speak with Lisa. They seemed to believe that Joe was a psychologist or a psychiatrist. With Dr. Lovett's assistance, Joe clarified that he was a registered nurse and only wished to ensure Lisa's well-being. The church members dressed in plain clothes included at least one male and one female. Lisa, a physically healthy 36-year-old female of average height and weight, appeared passive and pale for a Florida resident with some freckles. Joe introduced himself and asked Lisa if she wanted to speak to him and if she wanted the others to leave. She hesitated slightly before answering, a pattern he noticed throughout the conversation. Joe's assessment included asking about medical problems, living arrangements, and marital status, which Lisa responded negatively and stated she didn't mind her friend staying. During the conversation, Joe noticed Lisa crossing her eyes before answering questions. When confronted, she explained it helped her to concentrate better, which Joe found strange. He asked about her psychiatric history and current thoughts of self-harm, both of which she denied. He also questioned her about her reported bizarre behavior of removing her clothes and running down the street after her car accident. Lisa explained that she did it to get attention and avoid arrest. Lisa did not meet the Baker Act criteria. She was alert and oriented, and her memory was intact despite her slow responses. Joe completed his assessment and reported to Dr. Dejani, the on-call psychiatrist, who concurred that they had no basis to Baker Act Lisa. The church members assured Joe that Lisa would be safe with them and would not harm herself or drive again that day. Joe observed them escort Lisa out of the hospital with 3 church members on either side of her, giving the impression she was a prisoner. Throughout the assessment, Joe felt the church members' presence may have intimidated Lisa, potentially affecting her responses. She seemed guarded and fearful, though it was unclear whether this was due to the car accident or the church members' presence. Joe's gut feeling was that Lisa could not speak freely. Joe noted that Dr. Lovett had released Lisa against medical advice, indicating a belief that she needed further evaluation. While Joe did not conduct a physical assessment, he observed no injuries on Lisa's face. The church members provided no details on how they would care for Lisa, only assuring Joe of her safety. Joe's impression as he watched Lisa leave the hospital accompanied by the church members was one of concern. Her mental state, as he documented, showed no signs of suicidal or homicidal tendencies, and she was able to think abstractly. However, her strange behavior and slow responses indicated something was amiss, although Joe, not being a psychiatrist, could not diagnose her condition.
Scientology converges on Morton Plant Hospital. Soon after Lisa arrived at Morton Plant Hospital, fellow Scientologists began arriving at the emergency room. Benetta Slaughter, Lisa's boss, had alerted them. She had seen Lisa's car at the accident scene after the ambulance left and asked a policeman where the owner was. He directed her to Morton Plant Hospital. Benetta was covered in paint from working on props for a charity drive, and she felt she wasn't in the best condition to visit a hospital herself. She also expressed that she just didn't like hospitals, so she called other Scientologists to check in on Lisa. Among those who responded were Elaine Korczynski, Judy Goldsberry-Weber, Mary DeMoss, Annie Mora, Umberto Fontana, Dr. Jean de Kuipere, Emma Shamehorn, and David Slaughter.
According to Elaine Korczynski, was a senior case provider who supervised ministers, which Scientology calls auditors. These ministers perform special counseling with parishioners. Allen ensured that case supervisors followed standard procedures in directing the spiritual counseling. Each minister has 4 to 10 parishioners at any given time, and each case supervisor has 10 to 20 ministers. The security office informed Allen that a parishioner, Lisa McPherson, had some sort of accident and was at the hospital. He looked to see if he could send a minister there, someone who could go immediately to give any assistance if needed. Allen couldn't find anyone, so he decided to go himself. When he arrived at the emergency room reception desk, he was met by a man who introduced himself as Lisa's employer, David Slaughter. He asked to see Lisa McPherson, and a few minutes later, he was directed to her location. She was lying down, but not totally. The top of her body was elevated. She was in conversation with the male nurse. He told this nurse that he was the minister from the church. He greeted Lisa, and she said hi and smiled, and he noted that she was very pale. The nurse introduced himself as Joe and told Allen he needed to ask Lisa more questions. Lisa grabbed Allen's hand and he held it as Joe asked her questions. He asked her, "What is your name? How old are you? What is your address? Where do you work? Have you taken alcohol today? Or do you take medicine or drugs? This type of thing. Maybe 15 to 20 questions. Lisa answered the questions. At one point, she told Joe and Alan that she wanted to leave. She said, "I want to leave. I want to go to the church with him," meaning Alan. According to Alan, Nurse Joe said, "That's fine. All the answers you're giving me are right. But how do you explain what you did today, that you took your clothes off in the street?" In response, Lisa said, "You're right. This was not a rational action. I am sorry." She then followed by saying, "I am sorry I did that. I think I wanted to create some effect. I am sorry I did it. It was not rational." Then she said again, "But you know, I don't want to stay here. I want to go to the hotel on Fort Harrison with him," meaning Alan. "I don't want to stay here," she said again. So Nurse Joe asked Alan to step out of the room. He wanted to ask her some questions. Alan left the room but stood near the corridor. 3 to 4 minutes later, Nurse Joe came out of the room and told Alan that he saw no need to keep Lisa and that she'd answered the questions well. Alan said she was not crying. She was embarrassed, concerned, perhaps upset. She didn't want to stay there, which was very clear to Alan. She wanted to leave and she mentioned wanting to rest and relax. 3 people were in the room while the nurse asked the questions. However, 2 girls were at the entrance of the room. One of them Elaine didn't know. The other was Scientology doctor Jean de Kuiper. Elaine figured the hospital was satisfied with whatever examinations they've done. With no reason to keep her there, Elaine went back to the reception and saw David Slaughter. He said he didn't know what happened between that point and when she walked out. When she came out of the hospital reception area about 10 minutes later, Elaine asked if she needed a ride. Lisa said yes, she would appreciate a ride to the Fort Harrison Hotel, so Elaine gave her a ride and drove her there. He dropped her off at the hotel and some hotel staffs were there, so he asked, "Could you take her to get a room?" And then Elaine went to park his car. Lisa got to a room. After he parked his car, he went to Lisa's room to check on her. He asked her if she was going to be all right there, and she said yes. Elaine said he got the idea that she wanted to relax and rest and be away from work and whatever, so he didn't pry. He said Lisa looked more relaxed at that point and felt she truly wanted to stay there more than anything else. She wanted to relax. After he left her, he returned to his office and called the medical liaison office and asked whoever answered the phone to check on Lisa and see if she needed anything.
According to Scientologist Dr. Jean de Kuiper, chiropractor. It was nighttime when she received a call from Bonetta Slaughter, Lisa McPherson's employer. Bonetta informed her that Lisa had been in an accident and asked if she could go to the hospital. Bonetta had been working all day and still had paint on her. She also had a strong aversion to blood and medical situations. Bonetta told her Lisa was at Morton Plan Hospital and requested that she head over there. When she arrived at the hospital, she asked if there was a Lisa McPherson admitted. David Slaughter, Bonetta's husband, was there, and he told her Lisa was in the emergency room. She asked if she could go back and see her, and they permitted her to do so. In the receiving area, she saw Lisa wearing a hospital gown. Lisa appeared fine to her. There was no blood or visible injuries. At that moment, she still didn't know the details of the accident. She was informed that Lisa had run into the back of a car or something. The next thing she knew, Lisa had no clothes on. She never fully understood the sequence of events, but that was what she was told. Another person was there, a woman named Mary, who she understood to be Bonetta's assistant. She was unsure how Mary arrived, but Mary had Lisa's clothes with her. It was just Lisa and Mary at that point. Lisa didn't offer an explanation, and perhaps she didn't give her the opportunity to do so. She merely told Lisa that she had messed up. Lisa didn't seem frightened at all. The area was bustling with activity, with people and doctors constantly moving around. It was a chaotic environment with a sick child suffering from whooping cough and a lot of noise. They didn't get a chance to have a proper conversation. A doctor came in at one point to examine Lisa's eyes, checking for head injuries, but there were no lacerations on her body. From the time she arrived until they left together, it felt like a hand-holding experience rather than a serious discussion. Lisa didn't seem irrational to her. Lisa cried briefly, perhaps in front of a doctor, but it was short-lived. Lisa didn't joke and seemed more in shock from the accident, withdrawn and not very talkative. Her previous back injury didn't come up. The emergency room doctors consulted her only once, asking her if she knew why Lisa might need assistance. She shared that in July, Lisa had issues regulating her salt and potassium levels due to the heat. During her time there, she didn't have any x-rays taken. Mary had been with Lisa up to that point, and doctors mainly conducted reflex and eye tests, finding nothing unusual. No one asked about her relationship with Lisa. When it came time for Lisa's release, there were no significant conversations between Lisa and the doctors. Lisa signed herself out, and she signed as a witness. They had a psychiatric nurse there question Lisa to ensure she was rational. One of the questions was about saying people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, which Lisa answered correctly. Lisa's minister, Mr. Kordinsky, arrived at some point. The doctor asked about his relationship with Lisa. Bonetta never showed up, which she didn't expect given Bonetta's aversion to such situations. Mary left after the first 20 minutes, and she didn't see her again. After confirming who Kordinsky was, he left the emergency room. She stayed with Lisa until all the necessary tests were completed. The doctor eventually released Lisa, advising her not to run in the streets naked again, and implied she should look after Lisa. They signed the correct release forms and walked out together. As they exited, she saw Kordinsky and another man, though she was unsure if David Slaughter was still there. Lisa got into Kordinsky's car, and she followed him in her car.
According to Judy Goldsberry-Weber, Scientologist, medical liaison officer. Judy Goldsberry-Weber was a nurse, respiratory therapist, and an LPN with 35 years' experience. She spent 7 years on the staff of respiratory therapy at the University of Oregon Health Science Center in Portland, and 5 years working with the state. Then she moved on to private duty, living with terminally ill patients until they passed. Lisa McPherson came into Judy's MLO office in the summer of 1995. Lisa was having difficulty sleeping and had a loss of appetite. Judy discovered that Lisa had recently moved from a different climate and suggested she see a physician to see if medical condition was causing these issues. Judy provided her with a list of 3 doctors. Lisa returned a couple of days later saying she had visited Dr. DeKuyper, a chiropractor and a nutritionist, who helped her identify the problem. Lisa was happy and reported that her issues were being resolved with Dr. DeKuyper's program to improve her appetite and sleep. 2 weeks before the accident, Lisa attested to clear. It was stated that she was happy, elated, and bubbly. The next time Judy saw her was at the hospital. Security paged Judy, informing her she needed to go to Morton Plant Hospital immediately, though they did not provide a name of a patient. At the hospital, the admitting staff directed Judy to where Lisa was. Lisa was in the fast-track area and recognized Judy. Lisa was nervous but appeared unharmed. Though there was a lot of noise and confusion around them, Lisa expressed a strong desire to leave the hospital. Judy spoke with Dr. Lovett, who was taking care of Lisa. Despite his concerns, the psychiatric evaluator stated Lisa did not meet the criteria for psychiatric observation. Judy asked if there was any physical reason to keep Lisa in the hospital, and both the doctor and evaluator confirmed there was none. Judy informed Lisa that she would start the paperwork for her discharge, which made Lisa very happy. Judy then told Mr. Fontana and other staff members awaiting outside about the proceedings for Lisa's release. Lisa had been in an accident and was in a hospital gown, but someone had her clothes. Judy walked Lisa out of the hospital, where Lisa walked with Mr. Kordinsky and Dr. DeKuyper towards the car. Judy instructed Mr. Fontana to ensure Lisa went to a place where she could relax and be quiet as per doctor's recommendations. A few days later, Judy inquired about Lisa's condition and found out from her senior, Janis, that Lisa had been taken to the Fort Harrison Hotel. Janis assured Judy that Lisa was okay and everything was being taken care of. Judy asked Janis to tell Lisa she said hello and that Lisa should come visit when she felt better.
According to Annie Morrow, Annie Morrow's role involved researching and collecting information necessary to provide direction on handling situations that might present public relations or legal challenges for the Church of Scientology. Annie doesn't remember exactly who informed her about a parishioner being in an accident, but it might have been Brian Anderson. She then went to Morton Plant Hospital. Annie had never met Lisa McPherson until the day Lisa went to Morton Plant Hospital following her car accident. Her purpose in going to the hospital was to find out what was going on, assess if the situation required the church's concern, and gather information to handle the matter in a way that would help Lisa and protect the church. Their main concern was the potential involvement of a psychiatrist. David Slaughter, Bonetta Slaughter's husband, was at the hospital, as was Jean de Kuyperet, another parishioner and a chiropractor who had previously treated Lisa. After Annie had arrived at the hospital, she believes Emma Shamehorn was already there, followed by Judy Goldsberry-Weber and Elaine Korczynski. It's unusual for such incidents to happen to a longtime Scientologist who should be in a good frame of mind. It's tragic for someone to experience a mental breakdown. Annie did not speak to anyone at the hospital, but Umberto did. His goal was to inform the hospital authorities that Lisa was a Scientologist and, based on her religious beliefs, would not want psychiatric treatment or medication. Annie doesn't know who Umberto talked to or the reaction he received, but that was his purpose. Judy came because she was familiar with the hospital from previous visits with parishioners and staff for emergency care. In the emergency room, Mary DeMoss and Jean de Kuyperet were present, and later Alan Korczynski was able to see Lisa. Annie isn't sure if Judy actually saw Lisa. Annie didn't speak to Lisa herself. Anything she learned about the situation came later. Before Lisa was discharged, Annie was concerned about where Lisa would go, how she would be cared for, and whether she needed assistance. There was some discussion about where Lisa might stay, and it was decided she shouldn't stay by herself because she was obviously unstable. Annie recalls Elaine being on the phone, coordinating Lisa's care and where she should go. The decision made by those at the church rather than by Elaine or Annie was that Lisa should go to the Fort Harrison for rest and relaxation. Mr. Korczynski, in his technical position, would know what to do to help someone in Lisa's condition. Lisa walked out of the hospital with Jean de Kuyperet, Emma, and Elaine. She got into Elaine's car with Emma and Jean heading to the Fort Harrison. Annie then left the hospital and returned to her office to start gathering information on Lisa. She compiled various types of information, including correspondence between Lisa and the church, and provided it to her seniors, including Brian. This information would be useful to the legal department. Although Annie herself didn't go through Lisa's PC folder, Elaine probably did. Eventually, this information was sent to Los Angeles.
Recollection of Umberto Fontana. Umberto Fontana moved from LA to Clearwater in 1988 to fill the position of Director of Social Reform in the Office of Special Affairs. In this role, he worked with parishioners to organize community activities aimed at helping in various areas, such as drug rehabilitation, literacy, study technology, and exposing psychiatry violations of human rights through the Citizens Commission of Human Rights. His main focus was to engage parishioners' interest in community involvement. In the Office of Special Affairs in Clearwater, Umberto worked alongside Brian Anderson, Mary Story, Annie Mora, Alice Herbin, Glenn Stalo, Ben Shaw, and his wife. Umberto received word that Lisa McPherson had been taken to Morton Plant Hospital. He recalls coming into the office in the afternoon when either his wife or Annie Mora mentioned that a parishioner had been involved in a car accident and had been taken to Morton Plant. He was told there was some issue with her taking her clothes off. He then decided that he should go to the hospital. At the hospital, Umberto encountered Annie Mora, who had likely driven herself there. Several other people from the church were present, including Judy Goldsberry-Weber and possibly Emma Shamehorn. He also believed that David Slaughter was there but didn't recall seeing Elaine Korczynski. Upon arriving, Umberto spoke with Judy Goldsberry-Weber. He asked her how Lisa was doing and if there was a threat of her being taken to the psychiatric wing. Judy said it wasn't determined yet, which was Umberto's main concern. Umberto's main conversation at the hospital was with Judy, although he may have briefly spoken with Emma Shamehorn. He then spoke to one of the doctors and a psychiatric nurse, expressing his concern that Lisa shouldn't be admitted to the psychiatric wing based on their belief that psychiatry does more harm than good and his fear that she might be harmed or raped. Umberto didn't speak to Lisa directly but knew she was a church member and opposed to psychiatric treatment. He had been informed by either Emma or Judy that Lisa had been released. He said he saw her walking out with a couple of people. After leaving the hospital, Umberto returned to the Fort Harrison. He spoke with one of the security guards, confirming that Lisa had been released and was either on her way or had already arrived at the Fort Harrison, which surprised him as he didn't know why she was going there. Several people were taking care of Lisa. Elaine Kardazinski, the senior case supervisor, was responsible for the technical matters of her counseling. Humberto recalled being briefed by either Annie or his wife that Lisa wanted to go in for counseling, but was unable to do so because she wasn't resting well. To his knowledge, no one from his office went to see her.
According to Emma Louise Shamehorn, moved to Clearwater on April 23, 1987, to join the Sea Organization. Prior to that, she and her husband owned a small aviation business in Alberta, Canada, for 20 years until their separation. After that, she worked in various office roles such as secretary and receptionist. At Flag, Emma served as the public medical liaison officer, acting as a bridge between public individuals receiving services at the church and the medical profession. She held that position for approximately 8 years despite not having specific medical training. Public Scientologists pay for their own medical care while the church covers medical expenses for its staff. The first time Emma met Lisa McPherson was at Morton Plant Hospital. Her son-in-law, Nick McFarland, drove her to the hospital and dropped her off at the door. She didn't realize Lisa had wrecked her car, but was there because her beeper indicated that a public person at the hospital needed attention. In the waiting room or hallway, she saw Umberto Fontana, Judy, and possibly Annie Mora. Emma's purpose was to assess what help Lisa required and fulfill her role as the medical liaison officer. Although she didn't speak personally to Lisa, she was shown to Lisa's room where a psychiatric nurse and Elaine Kardazinski were present. There may have been another person, possibly Dr. de Kuiper, but Emma wasn't quite sure. The nurse asked to speak to Lisa alone, so Emma and the others stepped into the hallway. Judy Goldsberry-Weber arrived, mentioning she knew the doctor and would speak to him. Shortly after, Judy came out and informed them that Lisa was being released. They all left with Lisa at that point. They divided into cars, and Emma riding in the back to the Fort Harrison with Mr. Kardazinski and Lisa. It wasn't until they arrived at the hotel that they were informed which room Lisa would be staying in. Janet Herring met them at the entrance and directed them to the specific room in the cabanas at the back of the hotel. Emma assisted Lisa to the room. Lisa was calm and quiet and appeared healthy. At that point, Lisa had few belongings with her, possibly just a purse, though Emma couldn't recall exactly. Her things were reportedly brought to the hotel by Bonetta Slaughter, although Emma did not see them delivered herself. Lisa's bags were in the closet the next time Emma entered the room.
We have questions. Why did Lisa's behavior change so drastically after the car accident? What could have triggered such a severe response, and why was she struggling so much to articulate her thoughts and feelings?
What role did Scientology's practices play in Lisa's decision to undress in public? Was this a cry for help or a manifestation of deeper psychological distress exacerbated by her involvement with the church?
How did the presence of multiple Scientologists at the hospital influence the medical staff's decision? Were the medical professionals coerced or intimidated into releasing Lisa prematurely?
Why was Lisa's request for possible help at the hospital so vehemently opposed by the Scientologists present? How does this reflect on Scientology's broader stance towards mental health and psychiatric care?
What were the implications of the Scientologists' promise to care for Lisa after her release? Did they have proper training or resources to handle her condition? And why did they choose to take on this responsibility?
How did the medical staff reconcile Lisa's apparent mental distress with her lucid moments? Was there enough evidence to justify a more thorough psychiatric evaluation despite her periods of coherence?
What was the significance of Lisa's comment about being an OT and her need to make people think she was crazy? How do these statements relate to Scientology's teachings and practices?
Why did the hospital agree to release Lisa into the care of non-medical personnel? What were the legal and ethical oversights in this decision?
What impact did Lisa's prior interactions with the church have on her mental state during the hospital visit? Can we draw a line between her previous experiences and her actions on November 18, 1995?
How does this case highlight the potential conflicts between religious freedom and medical ethics? Should there be more stringent guidelines when dealing with cases involving controversial religious organizations?
These are the questions that continue to haunt those seeking justice for Lisa McPherson. The intricacies of her case reveal not only the personal struggles of one woman, but also the broader implication of institutional practices in the fine line between religious belief and the medical responsibility. As we delve deeper into this harrowing story, we aim to uncover the truth and shed light on the dark corners of Lisa's final days.
Coming up next on Sins of Scientology, we bring you part 3 of our series on Lisa McPherson. We will walk you through the final 17 days of Lisa's life spent under the close watch of fellow Scientologists. What happened behind the closed doors of the Fort Harrison Hotel? How did a woman seeking help end up losing her life under such mysterious circumstances? Stay tuned as we continue to uncover the disturbing details and lingering questions surrounding Lisa McPherson's tragic end.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Sins of Scientology. Today we peeled back another layer on the troubling events surrounding Lisa McPherson's life and untimely death. The details and testimonies we've examined raise critical questions about the influence of Scientology over its members and the length they will go to maintain control. In our next episode, we'll delve deeper into the final 17 days of Lisa's life, days marked by increasing isolation and distress under the church's care.
This is Sandy McKenna.
And I am Abraham Ulrich. Until next time, keep questioning, keep seeking, and may your journey be as rich and enlightening as the stories you encounter.
The following content contains sensitive material that may be disturbing or triggering to some listeners. Topics include discussions of psychological abuse, traumatic experiences, and other potentially distressing themes. Viewer discretion is advised. If you or someone you know is struggling, please seek support from a trusted friend, family member, or professional. Welcome back to Sins of Scientology, where we peel back the layers of one of the world's most secretive organizations. I'm your host, Sandy McKenna, and together with my co-host, Abraham Ulrich, we're diving deeper into the enigmatic and troubling case of Lisa McPherson. Before we delve into part 3, let's take a moment to recap the journey we've taken so far in uncovering this tragic story. In part 1, we explored Lisa's life from her early years to her deepening involvement with Scientology. We painted a picture of a vibrant young woman whose search for spiritual fulfillment led her into the fold of this controversial organization. We looked at her career within the church, her aspirations, and the close relationship she formed along the way. Through all of it, we aimed to understand what drove Lisa to dedicate herself so completely to Scientology. Part 2 took a darker turn as we examined the car accident that marked the beginning of Lisa's final chapter. This seemingly minor incident set off a chain of events that spiraled out of control. We detailed the immediate aftermath of the accident, Lisa's erratic behavior, and the decision to take her to the Fort Harrison Hotel rather than a medical facility. This pivotal moment became the catalyst for the intense and secretive care that Lisa would receive during the last 17 days. With these crucial pieces of Lisa's story in place, in part 3, we turn our attention to the sworn testimonies of the Scientologists who were responsible for Lisa's care during her final, harrowing 17 days. What really happened behind the closed doors of the Fort Harrison Hotel? Who were these individuals tasked with watching over her, and what secrets do their testimonies reveal? Their accounts will bring us closer to understanding Lisa McPherson's final tragic days. Stay tuned as we continue to unravel this intricate web of statements and contradictions, painting a picture of Lisa's last days that are as mysterious as they are unsettling. This episode promises to shed new light on the shadowy practices that led to Lisa's untimely demise. So tune in, stay curious, and prepare to be intrigued. The truth is out there, and we're here to uncover it.
Testimony Summary. Rita Boykin on caring for Lisa McPherson. In a detailed harrowing testimony given on March 18, 1997, Rita Boykin, a member of the Church of Scientology, recounts her experience caring for Lisa McPherson before her death in December 1995. Boykin, who the state attorney's office has subpoenaed, provided an in-depth account of the events and conditions surrounding McPherson's final days. Rita Boykin moved to Clearwater in 1995 for additional training with the Church of Scientology. She had been involved with the church since 1985, starting in California and then working in New York. She came to Clearwater, Florida on Thanksgiving of 1995. Boykin was enlisted to care for Lisa McPherson shortly after Thanksgiving by Oliver Jarrett, an H.C. Cope officer at Flag. She was briefed by Arthur Baxter, who was the head of security at the time. He described McPherson as an ordinary nice person who was currently extremely violent and needed careful watching to prevent self-harm. Boykin's first encounter with McPherson was in a ground-level room at the Fort Harrison Hotel, where McPherson was surrounded by several caregivers. McPherson's behavior was described as psychotic. She was nonverbal, extremely violent, and self-harming. The room had been stripped of anything potentially dangerous, including the mirror, chandeliers, and other sharp objects. The caregiving team included Boykin, Sylvia De La Vaga, Heather Pietzold, Laura Arunato. Initially, there were more involved, but the team settled down for these four. They rotated in shifts to ensure McPherson was never left alone. Boykin detailed the physical and mental toll this care took on the caregivers, particularly Sylvia, who became extremely depressed. McPherson was not eating solid foods and often spat out what was fed to her. Boykin resorted to feeding her smashed bananas mixed with protein powder. McPherson was also given herbal tea, water, and protein shakes. Despite efforts to get her to sleep with natural remedies, McPherson remained awake mostly and restless. Boykin noted the use of sleeping aids, including chlorohydrate, which she later identified as being administered by Janis Johnson. Boykin recounted that on December 5, 1995, McPherson was unusually active, moving around and being bathed due to soiling herself. Boykin left her shift around 5 p.m. when Laura Arunato took over. Later that night, Boykin was summoned to a conference room and informed of McPherson's death, which was believed to be due to an infectious disease, initially thought to be meningitis. Boykin's testimony is marked by her shock and exhaustion. She described McPherson as being up and moving just hours before her death, which made the news of her passing particularly jarring. Throughout the care period, the caregivers maintained logs of McPherson's behavior and condition, although Boykin could not recall writing a report on the final day due to her extreme fatigue. Rita Boykin's account sheds light on the chaotic and tragic circumstances leading up to Lisa McPherson's death, highlighting the challenges faced by the caregivers and the desperate attempts to manage McPherson's deteriorating condition within the confines of the church's practices.
From the testimony of Barbara Wenberg. In her testimony, Barbara Wenberg detailed her involvement in the caring for Lisa McPherson at the Fort Harrison Hotel, a property owned by the Church of Scientology. Wenberg, a church staff member, recounted two specific periods during which she was assigned to watch over Lisa during her stay at the cabana section of the hotel in late 1995. Wenberg first encountered McPherson 4 or 5 days after she arrived at the hotel following her release from the hospital on November 18, 1995. Her initial watch over Lisa occurred in the afternoon and extended into the evening, during which she observed Lisa pacing and displaying restlessness. Lisa did not exhibit violent behavior during this period. Wenberg was tasked with ensuring Lisa did not harm herself or others and stayed overnight sleeping in the same room as Lisa but on a separate bed. A security guard named Sam was stationed outside the room, and Wenberg did not converse with Lisa, adhering to the no communication practice. The second watch took place approximately a week later, starting early in the morning around 7 a.m. Someone from security called in Wenberg and relieved Joan Stevens. This time, Lisa exhibited more violent behavior, attempting to slap Wenberg and poke Stevens in the eye. Wenberg and Stevens and another staff member restrained Lisa, and security was called in to assist. During the second watch, Dr. Houghton, a dentist, arrived around lunchtime. Dr. Houghton attempted to feed McPherson and attempted a mild sedative composed of aspirin and antihistamine. According to Wenberg, Lisa threw food against the wall and exhibited difficulty eating. Despite her erratic behavior, Wenberg observed that Lisa calmed down after Houghton's intervention and attempted to sleep. Wenberg provided a written report after her second watch, documenting Lisa's behavior and the care she provided. She submitted this report to the church security personnel. Wenberg later attended a meeting called by Paul Kellerhouse, where she and other staff members who cared for Lisa were instructed to write up their accounts of what had happened. Throughout her testimony, Wenberg noted that she had only direct medical training in her experience as a dental assistant in Sweden. She acknowledged that Dr. Houghton was not a medical doctor, but a dentist who was called upon to assist Lisa due to his position with the church. Wenberg also revealed that she had participated in similar watches before, describing them as standard procedure within the church for handling individuals experiencing mental distress. In her final comments, Wenberg stated that she did not see Lisa again after the second watch and had not been involved with Lisa's care during her final days. She expressed uncertainty about the specifics of Lisa's health decline, but affirmed that medical help should have been sought if her condition worsened.
Testimony summary of Lisa Woodcraft. Lisa Woodcraft was with Lisa for one night on November 24th. She said that Lisa was extremely agitated and moved around the room a lot and slapped Janis Johnson several times throughout the night. She did not sleep that night. She was very non-coherent and would chatter continuously while she was there. She also spent a lot of time in the bathroom turning the water on and off and banging the shower hose around. She then got herself drenched and sprayed water all over the room and the floor got wet. At this point, Joan arrived and Leslie went out to get dry clothes for Lisa. Joan Stevens on caring for Lisa McPherson. Joan Stevens provided detailed testimony about her involvement in the care of Lisa McPherson during the critical period leading up to Lisa's death. Here's a comprehensive summary of the key points she shared. Joan Stevens, born on June 11, 1948 in Virginia, had been a member of the Church of Scientology since 1975. She moved to Clearwater in 1983 to continue her work with the church, primarily focusing on staff personnel and training. Joan's initial contact with Lisa McPherson was on a holiday night, likely Thanksgiving, in November 1995. Joan was called by her senior, Leslie Woodcraft, to relieve her and take over Lisa's care, who was staying in her room at the Fort Harrison Hotel. When Joan arrived, Lisa was not coherent and exhibited unusual behavior. She was constantly talking nonsensical and moving without direction. Lisa appeared to be in a state of severe mental distress. Joan was informed by Janis Johnson, who was also present, initially that Lisa would sometimes run the water to calm herself and had been given chamomile tea. The room was a typical hotel setup with a double bed, a dresser, a chair, and a potted plant. There was no key to enter, and Sam Giarna, a church staff member, was stationed outside the door. Joan spent approximately 12 hours with Lisa from late night until around 10 or 11 a.m. the next day. During this period, Lisa displayed continuous erratic behavior, including talking incessantly, moving around, and engaging in self-destructive actions. Lisa slapped Joan multiple times and tried to use a potted plant to attack her. At one point, Lisa stood naked in front of the window and attempted to leave the room. Joan had to call for assistance from Sam Giarna and later from Paul Kellerhouse when Lisa's behavior became too challenging to manage alone. She then became more and more violent and broke more glass in the bathroom. She then went and got back in her bed and then jumped off, landed on the wet floor, and then hit her head on the floor.
Valerie DeMange testimony. Valerie DeMange, a Church of Scientology member, testified regarding her involvement in the care of Lisa McPherson, who died under suspicious circumstances. Valerie was born on March 11th in 1965 and had been a church member since 1985, residing in Clearwater since 1993. She was assigned from Los Angeles, where she was involved in communication duties within the church. Valerie first encountered Lisa McPherson on November 21st, 1995, at the church's Fort Harrison Hotel, where Lisa was kept under a watch after an incident where she had stripped and wandered into traffic, leading to a hospitalization and a subsequent release to the church's custody. Valerie was tasked with ensuring Lisa ate, slept, and did not harm herself. She documented her observations and activities in reports directed to Elaine Kartazinski, the senior case supervisor overseeing Lisa's condition. Valerie's testimony revealed that Lisa was highly agitated, erratic, and sometimes violent, requiring constant supervision by church staff, including Valerie and others like Sylvia de la Vega and Emma Shamehorn. Valerie described several incidents where Lisa's behavior was concerning, such as trying to break windows and attacking staff. Despite these behaviors, Valerie was not provided with medical training to deal with such situations. Relying on her brief nursing education, she never finished or became a nurse. In Valerie's testimony, she said during her watch, church staff gave Lisa vitamins and other supplements, but no prescription medication. On one occasion, Janis Johnson, the medical liaison officer, administered a magnesium injection to help Lisa relax. Valerie expressed that Lisa's condition deteriorated over time, losing weight and showing signs of physical exhaustion and bruising from self-harm.
Emma Louise Shamehorn recounted her observations and experiences during the initial period of Lisa McPherson's stay at the Fort Harrison Hotel. She described an unusual behavior from Lisa, who sat on the foot of the bed and stared at her fingers for extended periods. Lisa initially did not express a desire to leave or see her mother. A day or so later, Lisa mentioned meeting someone at the pool, but it was nonsensical babble rather than a specific request. Emma was not informed why Lisa was staying at the cabana, nor did Emma ask Lisa about it. Emma described the room Lisa was in, which had 2 beds, a bathroom, a plate glass window, and an open closet in the hallway. Emma had first watched over Lisa, accompanied by Suzanne Schudenberger. The watch schedule was initially unstructured, relying on whoever was available. Barbara Wenberg later relieved Emma. Emma met Mr. Kartazinski once, around November 25th, to discuss Lisa's sleep issues. Kartazinski recommended aspirin and Benadryl. Emma stayed with Lisa until 1 a.m., noticing Lisa was nervous, agitated, and engaged in strange behavior, like dancing and jumping back into the bed. Lisa ate a little, playing games with her food and pretending to drink without swallowing. Emma stopped participating in the watch after the first week due to her workload and age. She did not see Janis Johnson or other doctors except Dr. Hutton, who visited on the 25th. Lisa's mental state worsened over time. Emma described Lisa's behavior, such as staring at her fingers, frequently changing her clothes, and brief shower. Emma was concerned about Lisa's lack of nourishment and sleep. She attempted to take Lisa's temperature using a plastic strip, but had to restrain Lisa, who resisted. Emma noted that Lisa's temperature was slightly elevated. She stopped her involvement around the 25th, continuing to check on Lisa through others. She wrote reports on Lisa's condition, the first of which she gave to security. Emma did not see any injections or other medication administered to Lisa other than vitamins, aspirin, and Benadryl. Emma believed that Ellen Kartazinski was in charge of the spiritual side of her treatment, while physical care was more loosely managed. Lisa's mental state was described as a type 3 situation, indicating mental problems. Emma attended a meeting on December 5th where she was asked to write a comprehensive report on Lisa. Emma later found out that Lisa had passed. She and other caretakers were quarantined briefly due to concerns about a contagious disease Lisa may have had. Emma noted that many high-profile Scientologists who were involved in Lisa's care, which was not unusual for the church. She was not aware of any specific medical training that Ellen Kartazinski had. Emma emphasized that any decision regarding Lisa's care, including giving Benadryl, required Kartazinski's approval based on L. Ron Hubbard's methods. Emma concluded by confirming she discussed her testimony with attorneys from the church a week prior, but did not review her reports.
Teresa Cesar testimony. Teresa Cesar arrived from Argentina on August 4, 1994, to join the Church of Scientology Sea Org. She had been a member of the church since 1986. Upon arriving in Clearwater, she completed her training and served as an expediter. Earlier in 1995, Teresa had participated in a similar watch to that of Lisa McPherson for another person who had been in a similar mental state. Teresa was assigned to watch Lisa McPherson from 3 p.m. on November 24th until 9:30 a.m. on November 25th. Oliver Jalot, the COPE officer, informed Teresa that Lisa needed care due to being type 3 psychotic. Her instructions included not talking to Lisa, ensuring she ate and slept, and guiding her back if she tried to leave the room. Security guard Alfonso Barcenas was posted outside Lisa's room and opened the door for Teresa. Lisa did not eat, drink, or take vitamins during this watch. She attempted to leave the room multiple times, saying, "Let me out," but was stopped and guided back by Teresa and another person, possibly Sylvia or Anna Benzini. Janis Johnson did not come to see Lisa while Teresa was there. Lisa became aggressive and tried to harm herself. Teresa had to hold Lisa's hands behind her back to prevent her from self-harming and wrote a report about the incident. Teresa's second watch. Teresa began her second watch at 7 p.m. on November 28, 1995. Lisa appeared worse than during the previous watch. She had violet-colored bruises, and her mental state had really declined by this point. Laura Arenuda attempted to feed Lisa, who spat out the food and water. Lisa tried to leave the room again but was stopped. Teresa had to guide her back to the chair, restraining her when she became violent. Teresa wrote another report on this occasion, noting that Lisa did not eat or drink and continued to try to harm herself. During both watches, Lisa displayed aggressive behavior, tried to leave the room, and refused food, drink, and vitamins. Teresa wrote a report for each watch and submitted them to the case supervisor, but did not recall the exact recipients of the reports. Teresa mentioned that the security guard, Alfonso, warned her that Lisa might try to leave the room, and it was not good for Lisa to go outside. Janis Johnson again did not come to see Lisa while Teresa was there. Teresa was placed in isolation after her second watch to ensure she did not contract anything from Lisa. No other family or friends visited during Teresa's watches except for Laura Arenuda. This summary captures Teresa's testimony regarding her involvement in the case of Lisa McPherson, highlighting her observations and actions during the assigned watches.
Heather Noel Pietzold regarding the death of Lisa McPherson. Heather Noel Petzold, the witness, was sworn in and examined by Mr. Mark McGarry regarding the events leading to Lisa McPherson's death in November and December of 1995. Heather was born on January 18, 1978 in California and resided in Clearwater on church property at the Hacienda. She moved from Los Angeles to Clearwater to join the Church of Scientology staff. Initially, she worked in the Commodore's Messenger Organization, CMO, ensuring staff training and support. At the time of Lisa McPherson's incident, Heather was an inspection officer, tasked with ensuring adherence to organizational policies. Heather's first contact with Lisa was on November 22, 1995. Paul Kellerhouse asked Heather to relieve another person who had been watching Lisa because she was violent. Heather was informed that Lisa was classified as a Type 3, a term indicating a psychotic break. Upon entering Lisa's room, Heather found Lisa screaming, moving her hands and occasionally kicking the bed. Lisa acknowledged Heather by approaching her and making hand motions near Heather's face, which Heather interpreted as an attempt to intimidate. Heather managed to get Lisa to sleep using herbal sleep aids and fed her eggs, toast, and vitamins. Heather watched Lisa again on November 24, 1995, after being requested due to Lisa's violent behavior. During this watch, Heather witnessed others restraining Lisa and helped calm her down. Heather was involved in multiple watches, often being called in due to her success in managing Lisa's behavior. She noted that Lisa's condition deteriorated, with increased difficulty in feeding and less sleep. Heather participated in the watch until Lisa's death, noting that physical condition worsened significantly in the last few days. On December 5, 1995, Heather attempted to bathe Lisa, who was too weak to assist herself. Heather observed that Lisa was mumbling and less active, with clear signs of dehydration and possibly labored breathing. Heather wrote reports about Lisa's condition, expressing concerns about the lack of improvement and suggesting change in care. Despite her reports, Heather received no direct feedback or actions from the church executives, including Elaine Kretizinski, who was in charge. Heather expressed regret for not being more forceful in advocating for Lisa's medical attention. She confirmed that no medical professionals consistently checked Lisa's vital signs during her watch. She described seeing physical signs of Lisa's decline, such as bruises and scratches, but could not definitely explain their cause. Heather emphasized that the church's approach to handling Lisa's situation was inadequate and acknowledged that more assertive actions may have saved Lisa's life. Heather concluded by expressing her willingness to answer any further questions and acknowledged the complexity and emotional weight of the situation surrounding Lisa McPherson's death.
Summary of Suzanne Reich testimony. Suzanne had witnessed Lisa's clear ceremony, during which Elaine Korczynski declared Lisa to have achieved the state of clear. She said Lisa was very happy and wanted to celebrate with friends. Suzanne said Lisa's closest friend might have been Benetta, but Suzanne did not know her roommate, Gloria Cruz. She knew Lisa's accident involved in her walking down the street naked, after which the police took her. I assume she meant paramedics. Suzanne learned about Lisa staying at the cabana and being type 3, possibly from Vic Fazio, Elaine, or Suzanne Justice. Suzanne watched Lisa at the cabana, writing a report in the morning after spending the night there. She could not recall who instructed her to write the report, but Elaine needed to know what was happening during the night. Suzanne recalled instances of Lisa's behaving erratically, including rolling out of bed and spitting out food. During her watch, Suzanne ensured the room was free of items that could hurt Lisa and positioned herself by the door to prevent Lisa from leaving. She confirmed Elaine Korczynski was the senior case supervisor to whom reports were directed. Suzanne identified her handwriting on some reports, but stated that most details, including the medical treatments like CalMag and B1, would come from the case supervisor or medical liaison officer. The decision-making between the case supervisor, Elaine Korczynski, and the medical liaison officer, Janis Johnson, depended on whether the issue was spiritual or medical. Suzanne said she and the others were told to write reports about their knowledge and not to discuss it. Suzanne confirmed talking to Judy Johnson and trying to find out about Lisa's condition, but received no information. She was later placed in isolation briefly due to a sore throat.
Summary of Alfonso Barcena's sworn statement. Alfonso Barcenas, born in Mexico City, is not a U.S. citizen but was in the country on a working visa for church members. He joined the Church of Scientology in 1975 or 76 and has been a member since then. Barcenas moved to Clearwater in September 1995 and began working in renovations and treasury before transitioning to security training. Initially, Barcenas was involved in renovations, managing funds and supplies. He began training for security role in Clearwater shortly before Lisa McPherson's case. Despite being referred to as a security guard, he was not yet fully trained or assigned as one during the events in question. Barcenas was assigned by Paul Kellerhouse, his senior, to assist with McPherson, who had been involved in an accident and was mentally disturbed. His main responsibilities included preventing McPherson from harming herself or others and ensuring no external disturbances. He stood outside her room, occasionally interacting with other staff members who were directly taking care of her. Barcenas described multiple incidents where McPherson exhibited violent behavior, such as breaking a lamp and hitting her head against the bed's headrest. He entered the room 4 to 5 times to address these issues, including removing potentially harmful objects. Barcenas did not have extensive interaction with McPherson, adhering to church policies of not speaking to individuals in such conditions. Alfonso observed McPherson's care by female staff members who managed her hygiene and basic needs. He facilitated by providing clean linens and food, although he did not monitor her consumption closely. McPherson appeared thinner and had a rash, but no significant bruises or injuries. Barcenas was relieved from his assignment about 4 days before McPherson was taken to the hospital, believing she had since calmed down. He was not present during her departure and did not know the details of how or why she was moved. Barcenas reported to Paul Kellerhouse and interacted with other staff members like Arthur Baxter and Sam Giora. He did not write reports himself, but was aware that some caregivers did. Alfonso Barcenas' testimony highlights his limited but crucial role in the secrecy and care of Lisa McPherson during her stay at the Fort Harrison Hotel. His observations and actions were directed by his superiors, and he maintained the church's policies throughout the assignment.
Janis Johnson. Janis Johnson's position within the Church of Scientology at the time of Lisa McPherson's psychotic break and subsequent isolation was that of the medical liaison officer. But let's start by taking a look back at where Janis began. She was born Janis K. Smith in California. She married and divorced and became Janis K. Volk. Her name changed again to Janis K. Johnson on May 5th in 1980 in Michigan, but there's no explanation why. She married Michael Joseph Fitzgerald on July 14th in 1981, then becoming Janis K. Fitzgerald. She graduated from Wayne State University of Medicine in Detroit, Michigan on June 8th in 1983. She completed a 3-year residency in anesthesiology at Sinai Hospital in Detroit on August 27, 1986. She joined the Veterans Administration Medical Center in Albuquerque, New Mexico from 1986 through 87. She was licensed in Arizona as Dr. Janis K. Fitzgerald on September 4th, 1987. She worked at Southern Arizona Anesthesia Services in Tucson and had practicing privileges at Tucson Medical Center, Carondelet St. Joseph Hospital, Columbia El Dorado Hospital, Carondelet St. Mary's Hospital, Northwest Hospital, and Sutter Surgical Center. In October 1982, Dr. Fitzgerald, a.k.a. Janis Johnson, was involved in multiple discrepancies related to the administration of Safenta at Northwest Hospital. Sufentanil is an opioid used to induce and maintain anesthesia to act as an analgesic in labor and delivery and to treat severe acute pain. In November 1992, additional issues were reported, including unauthorized possession and administration of Versed and liquid cocaine. Versed is an injection that helps you to relax or sleep before surgical procedures. It can also block your memory of the procedure. On October 30th in 1992, Dr. Fitzgerald signed out 15 cc's of Safenta under false pretenses. On November 10, 1992, she attempted to bypass proper procedures to obtain Safenta again, which was refused by the RN. Over the month, several syringes of fentanyl were observed being pocketed and replaced with different syringes during procedures. Repeated bypassing of proper procedures was reported. There was suspicion of impaired practice due to possible drug use. Janis Fitzgerald agreed to cease practicing clinical medicine, surrender DEA license, and undergo random drug testing. Several instances of drugs were found in her system. Some had valid prescriptions. She underwent a physical at the Mayo Clinic revealing numerous medical problems. It is reported she suffered from severe pain due to Morton's neuroma and had her back fused in December of 1992. Her license was never revoked, but she agreed not to practice clinical medicine. It was stipulated that she undergo treatment and random drug testing, but later she decided not to seek reinstatement of her DEA license. She quit medicine in 1993, and she moved to Clearwater, Florida in early 1995 to join the Church of Scientology staff.
Remember Judy Goldsberry-Weber from episode 2 at Morton Plain Hospital? She was the one who asked Dr. Lovett, the ER doctor, and Nurse Joe, "Does Lisa have a physical reason to be here? She wants to leave this hospital. You're keeping her because she can leave, right?" They both admitted no, there's no reason to keep her there. Then Judy said, "Fine, she wants to leave." Dr. Lovett said, "Well, are you willing to take care of her?" Judy responded, "Yes, we'll take care of her. We'll make sure, but is there any physical reason for her to be here?" Dr. Lovett said no, so Judy said, "Fine. Can you please start the paperwork to discharge her?" Again, Judy said she was willing to take her. "Are you telling me there's no physical reason for her to stay, but you still want her under observation, yet you've worked with me on many other people? How about if I take responsibility to stay with her, take care of her? Are you willing to let her go?" At that point, he backed off and kind of said, "Well, I guess. Are you willing to let her come if I take care of her?" At this point, he conceded. So they went back and advised Lisa that they were going to start the paperwork and that we would get her to where she could leave the hospital as soon as they had finished it. Fast forward a few days later, Judy asked Janis how Lisa was doing. She told her she had picked up some sedatives for Lisa and asked her what was happening with her. She told Janis she'd love to know, needed to know, in case she ran into Lovett. And Janis kept telling Judy she didn't have to worry about Dr. Lovett. Janis said, "Forget that. I am in charge, and you don't need to know anything. It's none of your concern. Butt out." Judy said she was not willing to butt out, and she got angry and raised her voice. They got into a screaming match. Judy told Janis she didn't think this was right. All she was asking was for information, and she wouldn't give her the information she needed. Judy had been responsible for Lisa's person and didn't like what she was seeing, and she wanted to know in case somebody asked. So who and what was going on in the MLO? In her role as medical liaison officer, Janis Johnson acted as a bridge between the staff and local medical services, provided basic first aid, vitamins, and facilitated medical referrals and transportation. She had direct contact with Lisa for the first time at the end of November 1995. Janis learned about Lisa's issues secondhand from Suzanne Green. Lisa had trouble sleeping, which led to not eating and becoming increasingly distressed. Janis observed that Lisa was very thin and seemed to lose more weight in a short period. Suzanne Green, formerly Schudenberger. Position, medical office manager. Role, supervise the medical office, including handling public, non-staff, seeking medical referrals. Involvement with Lisa McPherson. She knew Lisa personally and communicated Lisa's health issues to Janis. Suzanne informed Janis about Lisa's insomnia and occasional refusal to eat, which led her to getting quote-unquote pretty weird when she hadn't slept. Oddly enough, Suzanne did not have a medical background but managed a medical office. Laura Aronada. Position, assistant office manager, technically under Suzanne Green. Role, assisted with various tasks in the medical office, helping with whatever needed to be done despite her limited English proficiency. Involvement with Lisa McPherson. Not directly mentioned in the context of Lisa McPherson's care, Laura's role was more supportive within the office's administrative structure.
Fort Harrison Hotel, Clearwater, Florida. Cabanas, Tropica Terrace Room 174. Lisa had been held in this room since November 18th. There was a security guard at the door preventing her from leaving. Her care was managed by Elaine Kartaszewski. Lisa had round-the-clock caretakers, consisting of church medical officers, clerks, guards, librarians, and administrators who never spoke to her, force-fed her with something akin to a turkey baster, and provided her with fluids, bits of food, vitamins, sedatives, supplements, and herbal remedies. They held her nose, attempting to force her to swallow. In the days leading up to December 5th, Lisa was regressing. She lost weight, and by day 14 she was so weak she couldn't stand. She was incontinent. She had pressure sores. Her jaw was swollen. Janis Johnson gave Lisa herbs and chloral hydrate to help her sleep, which she appeared to have done during the last 3 days in room 174. On December 5th, Janis Johnson was given a message when she arrived at her office at 7 p.m. from caretaker Laura Aranunda saying she needed her. Laura arrived at Lisa's room at 5 p.m. Lisa was septic and had bruises on her body which looked like they were infected and were not healing properly. She ran and talked to Elaine Kartaszewski and discussed with him what they could do. They both called Dr. Minkoff and told him that Lisa was septic and she needed antibiotics. Dr. Minkoff said that he would have to see Lisa before giving her antibiotics and that they should bring Lisa to see him at the Newport Richey Hospital, but he would only be there until 10 p.m. Janis got directions to the hospital from Emma and arranged for Paul Greenwood to come and help. She then went back to the cabana and helped Laura get Lisa ready to go. Lisa had diarrhea, so Janis helped Laura change her. Janis noticed that Lisa had lost a lot of weight. Janis told Lisa they were going to take her to Dr. Minkoff. Lisa acted like she heard everywhere, but she was not hostile and, according to Janis, acknowledged her in a friendly way. Senior Security Officer Paul Greenwood was called to assist Janis Johnson to take someone to the hospital who was sick. He went to the cabana, number 174, saw Lisa there with Laura. Janis had gone to get the car. When he saw Lisa, she was awake but looked very sick and was breathing heavily. He asked Laura what they were going to do, and she said they were going to take Lisa to the hospital. He and Laura tried to have Lisa walk between them, but she was too sick, and he carried her to the car. He sat in the back with Lisa and Laura, and Janis drove. Paul did not know which hospital they were going to. It took about 45 minutes to get there. On the way to the hospital, Lisa's breathing became very labored, and then it got fainter and fainter just before they arrived. When they got to the hospital, Janis opened the door to the van and saw Lisa. She thought that she still had some circulation from the way her skin looked. She got an orderly and a nurse to come get her. Then they put her in a wheelchair. That was the last Paul saw of her. Janis could see that Lisa's blood pressure was very low. Her skin had color, and she thought she saw Lisa breathing.
Testimony of Rick Pemberton. Rick Pemberton had been a nurse since 1986, initially starting as an LPN and becoming a registered nurse in 1988. He worked on the telemetry and ICU floors until 1993, and then moved to the emergency room in late 1994, where he worked on the night of December 5, 1995. Pemberton overheard Dr. Minkoff's side of a phone call where Minkoff mentioned bringing a patient in to be examined. The call lacked urgency, and Pemberton was instructed to notify Minkoff upon patient's arrival. The patient arrived in a blue minivan around 8 or 9 p.m. Pemberton and technician Willie Burdett assisted in bringing Lisa McPherson out of the van. She appeared very pale, had hazy eyes, and wasn't breathing, leading Pemberton to suspect she was dead. Lisa was rushed to room 2, the CPR room, and CPR was initiated. She had no pulse or respiration and was cool to the touch, confirming to Pemberton that she was dead. He briefly left the room to triage other patients, but noted that the medical team did not obtain a pulse. Lisa was DOA. Lisa McPherson appeared to be emaciated, with sunken cheeks, and had small hemorrhages on her body, particularly on her back and arms. No bruises were noted on her face. Her appearance suggested she had been dead for a while, possibly at least half an hour. 3 female accompanied McPherson. One may have been a foreign-trained physician. They briefly spoke with Dr. Minkoff and Barbara Schmidt, the charge nurse. The individuals seemed nonchalant about McPherson's condition, which Pemberton found unusual, especially if one was indeed a physician. Dr. Minkoff appeared shocked by McPherson's condition, indicating he was not fully informed about her severe state. Pemberton believed Minkoff expected a less critical case and would have advised immediate medical attention had he known the severity. Barbara Schmidt, Roxanne Coelpin, Angela Williams, and Teresa, working a shift from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., were mentioned as part of the team. Dr. Niles also worked that night as Dr. Minkoff left at 10 or 11 p.m. Pemberton emphasized that better communication about McPherson's condition could have led to different actions, such as calling 911 or taking her to a closer facility like Moore Implant Hospital. Rick Pemberton's testimony highlights the sequence of events from receiving the call about Lisa McPherson to her arrival and the subsequent medical response, emphasizing the apparent lack of urgency in the initial call and Dr. Minkoff's shock upon seeing her condition.
Later, Janis Johnson was standing outside the emergency room where Dr. Minkoff was working on Lisa and saw the EKG screens, which showed no signs of life. They worked on Lisa for about 20 minutes, trying to resuscitate her and giving her CPR and antibiotics, but to no avail. Dr. Minkoff said it appeared that she had been overwhelmed by an infection, one which she could not fight off. Dr. Minkoff asked Janis why she hadn't brought Lisa in earlier, and Janis said that Lisa did not look that sick before today. Janis spoke to the hospital staff but didn't know Lisa's address, phone number, next of kin, social security number, etc., and explained that she had just been the one to drive Lisa to the hospital and had forgotten to grab Lisa's purse and her ID because she was in a hurry. We reflect on the haunting details that have emerged about Lisa McPherson's final days through the accounts of those involved in her care, revealing a system ill-equipped to handle her deteriorating condition where misguided practices took precedence over proper medical intervention.
We have questions. Some caregivers like Rita Boykin describe Lisa as extremely violent and psychotic, while others, such as Barbara Wenberg, initially noted her as restless but not violent. This inconsistency raises questions about the accuracy of the observation.
The testimonies differ on the use of medications and supplements. For instance, Boykin mentioned the administration of chloral hydrate, while others, like Valerie Demange, noted that only vitamins and herbal remedies were given, with no mention of a more potent sedative.
Discrepancies exist in the description of Lisa's physical state. Some caregivers, like Heather Noel Petzold, noted significant physical decline and bruising, while others did not observe such severe symptoms, which could indicate either varying levels of observation or differing standards of reporting.
There are conflicting accounts about who was in charge and making decisions about Lisa's care. While some testimonies point Alan Korczynski as the primary decision-maker, others suggest a more collective approach involving several staff members with differing levels of involvement and authority.
Testimonies vary on how caregivers responded to Lisa's worsening condition. Some, like Teresa Cesar, reported attempts to manage her aggression and self-harm, while others, such as Joan Stevens, did not mention any significant interventions to address her declining health. These discrepancies highlight the chaotic and uncoordinated nature of Lisa McPherson's care, contributing to the tragic outcome of her situation.
How does the legal system address the responsibility of religious organizations, such as the Church of Scientology, when their practices result in harm or death due to a refusal to seek traditional medical help?
What mechanisms are in place to hold religious organizations accountable for the welfare of their members, especially when their doctrines discourage or prohibit conventional medical treatments?
What specific practices were employed in the care of Lisa McPherson during her final days, and how do they align or how did they deviate from the standard medical procedures?
How did the lack of formal medical training among Lisa McPherson's caregivers impact the quality and appropriateness of the care she received during her final days?
What protocols, if any, were in place to ensure that individuals with no medical training were adequately prepared to oversee and manage the care of someone in Lisa McPherson's condition?
Why was there a delay in seeking professional medical help for Lisa?
What medications and treatments were administered to Lisa, and were they appropriate for her condition?
How did Scientology's communication protocols between the caregivers and medical staff affect Lisa's care? This revealing soundbite from a former senior executive of the Church of Scientology, Marty Rathburn, sheds light on this very question. Let's listen.
And it was like walking into a flood scene or something. I mean, they all looked devastated. They lacked sleep. Some of them had scratches and bruises from getting hit by Lisa. All of them were extremely emotionally distraught because each one of them put it on their shoulders that they had done something wrong. Well, quite frankly, everybody did something wrong because the whole thing was done wrong. I mean, you don't have 15 different people rotating in and out of a room with somebody who's psychotic. The whole idea of this this isolation is you don't have any external stimuli re-stimulating the person and getting them to set off again. If you have utter stillness and utter quiet, they tend to calm down enough that they can then communicate, and you can do some auditing, and then you can help bring them up and pull them out of the thing. Tom, I've seen this work on a number of people over the years, all the way from my beginning days in Scientology. It's really quite simple. They have 15 people rotating in and out. She's getting a different new stranger in the room every other day. They've got people in there bawling their eyes out. You're not supposed to say a word. In fact, you're not even supposed to be in the room. Okay? I mean, I can't describe to you how 180 degrees diametrically opposed the handling of her was to what the scripture says is the way you're supposed to handle something like that.
But you had a phrase for how it was handled. A perfect storm, or
I thought it was a perfect storm of incompetence and irresponsibility. And I say the irresponsibility and incompetence because the writings say that you've got to have a complete, full medical examination. You've got to rule out that this person isn't in some kind of hidden pain, and that's the source of all this, okay? You're not going to pull a person out of a wild area of spiritual and mental distraught if they're in excruciating pain. So a complete, thorough medical examination is required. Okay? Never had it. They had a woman in there who was on staff, who was a doctor, who you later uncovered didn't even have a license, had lost her license for abusing medical prescription drugs. Who the CS, who's really the person directing the whole thing, he's assuming that she's done such, but there's no evidence she's ever done such. And it's a dueling match between Elaine Kartazinski, the CS, and Janis Johnson, the doctor. Janis Johnson thinks, boy, I'm under the direct supervision of a class 12, the top CS at the Mecca of technical perfection, and he ain't telling me to do anything, so I must be doing everything right. You understand? And on the other hand, you got Elaine thinking, well, nothing serious can actually happen here because I've got a bona fide doctor who's going in to see her every single day. So each of them are pointing the finger in the other direction. Of all the people in the entire place, I mean, we had maids who were from Central America who couldn't even speak English, who spent an afternoon in there. 201, each one of them felt was fully responsible for the result of that. The only ones that didn't were Elaine and Janis. Now, Elaine ultimately did, but I don't know if Janis ever did.
Who really were the critical decision makers regarding Lisa's care, and how did they determine her treatment?
What ethical issues arise from the testimonies regarding the care provided to Lisa? How do these issues reflect on the broader practice within the Church of Scientology?
Why did Janis Johnson, the only person in the van with medical experience, drive? There was a 45-minute ride to the hospital. Why did she drive and not sit in the back with Lisa to manage her care? These questions aim to probe deeper into the circumstances surrounding Lisa McPherson's care, highlighting the critical points where her well-being was compromised and raising broader concerns about the practices within the Church of Scientology. The story of Lisa McPherson doesn't end here. In fact, it's only the beginning. Here is a soundbite from Marty Rathbun talking about what happened in the aftermath of Lisa's death.
They said there was no religious services whatsoever. This was all a situation of a woman coming for rest and relaxation at the Fort Harrison. So now that's on record with the police, okay? Later that day or that evening, I get a call that I got to go out to Clearwater Beach to get on a payphone to get a confidential call from David Miscavige. I get the call, and he says to me, why aren't you all over this thing? Why is Tom DeVock handling the police, and why is Tom DeVock arranging interviews? Where are you in all this? Why are you, and I'm not going to, by the nature of the whole relationship, you don't say, well, sure, 3 months ago you told me to shut my mouth. And when somebody says jump, I say how high. You don't do that. You listen and you take it and, whatever. But he's now saying, get on it. So that's the hand I'm dealt. I got 2 false sworn statements to law enforcement agents. I've got the worst possible perfect storm of incompetence and irresponsibility in terms of what actually went down. Okay? And that's how it begins.
In loving memory of Lisa McPherson, may you rest in peace.
Oh Lord, we remember tonight Lisa McPherson, who suffered and died in a room of the Fort Harrison Hotel just feet from us. We know that Lisa was a good person trying to make the world a better place. We mourn the loss of her smile, her helping hand, and her friendly spirit. We especially mourn the inhumane nature of her death at the hands of her so-called friends, who chose Scientology over common sense and watched her life slip away before their eyes without seeking desperately needed medical attention. We remember Lisa and others who have been hurt and wounded by Scientology. That includes Noah Lottick, Roxanne Friend, Patrice Vick, and too many more to list at this time. We will remember them always, and let our remembrance stir us to help those who this day are now in their situations. Grant us the wisdom and the strength to honor Lisa's memory through action, to see to it that no one else has to needlessly suffer as she did. Help us to have that ready smile, that helping hand, and that friendly spirit, so that we can continue the good that was in Lisa, and like her, try to make the world a better place.
As we wrap up this episode of Sins of Scientology, we're left with more questions than answers about the tragic death of Lisa McPherson. The testimonies we've explored revealed web of inconsistencies, neglect, and misguided care that ultimately led to Lisa's untimely demise. The stark difference in these accounts underscore the chaotic environment within the Fort Harrison Hotel and raise serious concerns about the accountability and practices of those involved. Lisa's story is a haunting reminder of the potential dangers when ideology supersedes common sense and medical expertise. Her final days, filled with confusion and suffering, should never be forgotten. It is our hope that by shining a light on these dark corners, we can honor Lisa's memory and advocate for justice and reform. Thank you for joining us on this difficult journey. We encourage you to stay engaged, ask questions, and demand transparency. If you found this episode insightful, please share with others and don't forget to subscribe to Sins of Scientology for more deep dives into the hidden truth of this controversial organization. As always, keep questioning, keep seeking, and may your journey be as rich and enlightening as the stories you encounter.